More than 100 days after the outbreak of war between the United States and Iran, the two countries have announced a framework agreement that could mark the beginning of the end of one of the most consequential conflicts in West Asia in recent years. Hello and welcome to The Print. I am Samah Qundeel and let's see how this unfolded. US President Donald Trump announced this breakthrough on social media, writing, "Ships of the world, start your engines, let the oil flow." The agreement, which is expected to be formally signed in Geneva, Switzerland on June 19, was mediated primarily by Pakistan and Qatar after months of negotiations running alongside military escalation. But what exactly has been agreed to? And does this mean the war is finally over? The short answer is no. What has been announced is not a final peace treaty but a memorandum of understanding or an MOU that establishes a framework for a 60-day negotiation period while extending the current ceasefire. The agreement is designed to halt military operations, reduce tensions, and create space for negotiations on issues that remain unresolved, particularly Iran's nuclear program. According to Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, both sides have agreed to the immediate and permanent termination of military operations across all fronts, including Lebanon. Iran later confirmed the development, with Deputy Foreign Minister Qasem Gharibabadi stating that nearly 14 to 15 hours of intensive talks were held in Tehran to finalize the text of the agreement. While the complete document has not yet been released to the public, reports indicate that several key provisions have been included in the draft. Perhaps the most significant is the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. The waterway is one of the world's most important energy corridors, through which a substantial share of global oil and gas supplies passes. Disruptions in the strait during the conflict contributed to fears of a wider energy crisis and volatility in global markets. Under the proposed agreement, Iran will reopen the strait to commercial shipping, while the United States will remove the naval blockade imposed on Iranian ports. Announcing the development, Trump declared, "The deal with the Islamic Republic of Iran is now complete. Congratulations to all." The agreement is also expected to provide Iran with significant economic relief. Iranian media reports suggest that the United States and its regional partners will release up to $24 billion in frozen Iranian assets during the negotiation period. However, reports indicate that these frozen funds are still a sticking point. Washington is also expected to temporarily ease certain sanctions and refrain from imposing new sanctions while talks continue. Another major element concerns Iran's nuclear program, which was at the center of the conflict. However, rather than resolving the issue immediately, the agreement effectively postpones the most contentious questions. Iran has reportedly agreed not to pursue nuclear weapons and to maintain status quo of its nuclear program during the 60-day period. More difficult issues, including the future of Iran's enriched uranium stockpile and long term verification mechanisms, will be addressed in subsequent negotiations. Notably, reports suggest that discussions on Iran's missile program and support for regional armed groups have been excluded from the current framework. The timing of the agreement is also significant. Just before the breakthrough was announced, Israeli forces carried out strikes in Beirut, prompting fears that the conflict could expand further. Iran reportedly prepared a response, while senior Iranian officials warned that any agreement would depend on the United States fulfilling its commitments. Trump publicly criticized the strike, stating that it should not have happened, and emphasizing that the parties were close to reaching a deal. Analysts believe this moment may have accelerated efforts to finalize the agreement and avoid a renewed escalation. The agreement also reflects a reality that became increasingly clear during the conflict. Neither side was able to fully achieve its strategic objectives. Significantly, while Netanyahu has not officially commented on the deal, his ministers have said that Israel is not part of nor bound by any such agreement. Israel's Minister of National Security, Itamar Ben-Gvir, a far-right leader, declared that Israel is not subject to the United States, describing the country as an independent and sovereign nation whose sole obligation was to its citizens and security interests. The United States and Israel entered the war seeking to significantly weaken Iran's nuclear capabilities and regional influence. Iran, meanwhile, faced intense military pressure, economic isolation, and a naval blockade. Yet, despite months of fighting, many of the central disputes remain unresolved. Iran retains important leverage through its geographical position along the Strait of Hormuz and its ability to threaten regional energy infrastructure. The United States, meanwhile, continues to hold substantial economic leverage through sanctions and control over the access to the international financial system. The result is an agreement that postpones rather than settles the most difficult questions. That is why many analysts view the next 60 days as the real test. The success of this framework will depend on whether both sides fulfill their commitments. Iran will be watching for the lifting of the naval blockade, the release of frozen assets, and progress of sanctions relief. The United States will be looking for Iranian compliance with the terms relating to shipping, military de escalation, and nuclear activity. Only if these measures are successfully implemented can negotiations move towards a comprehensive settlement. For now, the agreement offers something that had appeared increasingly unlikely just weeks ago: a pause in a conflict that threatened region stability, disrupted global energy markets, and raised fears of a much wider war. Whether it becomes the foundation for lasting peace or merely a temporary reprieve will become clear over the next 2 months. Thank you for watching. For more such content, keep following The Print.